thanks again for joining us for Let's Chat Conquering Fears. I'm going to go ahead and bring up our two guests for today. We have Lisa Meadows, joined by her awesome dog, Thunder. I'm sure he'll make an appearance here in just a second. And then we're also going to be joined by Dr. Zakia Robbins McNeal. She is an author, a professor, therapist extraordinaire, and just someone that is so encouraging. And if you don't leave here just with a little bit of something saying, hey, I got a little power to keep going forward and working through some of those challenging things, she's going to be the one to leave you with that word today. So I want to start with Lisa. Lisa, you have been instrumental for me in trying to overcome this fear of dogs. It has plagued me since childhood. People ask me all the time, did you get bitten by a dog? What happened to you? Why and how are you afraid of dogs? And I was not bitten as a child. I did get nipped on the knee when I was an adult, but I've just always been afraid of them. And starting out, I would run from dogs. They would think you were playing, and so that would make things worse. And then as I got older, I would stop running from them, but I never quite felt comfortable. If I knew a dog was going to be somewhere, then I kind of would, try to figure out how do I navigate this space. And it really controls how you show up in the world, and what you participate in and what you get involved in. So why did you want to take on this challenge of trying to help me tackle this fear of mine?
Well, I thought it was really cool because it was when you and I first started working together and we were just talking about things, and my whole life revolves around weather because that's my job as a meteorologist, and then I love dogs. So I love dogs and I love weather. And when I heard Shayla say that she was afraid of dogs, I was like, oh no, I understand a lot of people, and a lot of people rightfully so are afraid of dogs, but I was just like, this is one of my favorite things. I want to share this awesome thing with her. And so I thought, well, I have a dog, so that's why I'm on the floor. Thunder, come here. The thing is, the dog we chose to get her acclimated to dogs is this guy. And this is a pointy-eared German Shepherd, and some people are kind of afraid of pointy-eared dogs. And again, disclaimer, don't just go up to any dog and pet them. Obviously, some dogs could be dangerous. Some people say, I just don't want you to pet my dog. But if you know that you talk to the owner and you say, hey, may I please pet your dog or something along those lines, then it's safe to do so. Definitely want to do that. But that's the reason I wanted to help Shayla, was because it was just like, this is one of my favorite things and I think that you'll enjoy it. And then it turns out that she was a lot more afraid of dogs than I thought she was. And so I was like, okay, this is really going to help her, which is even better.
And Dr. Z, how important is trust when it comes to conquering your fears? I know for myself, I was scared. I thought of the size of Lisa's dog, but part of what made me feel a little bit more comfortable taking that step is that I knew that she was a trained handler and that she wouldn't put me in a situation where I could be harmed. And so I kind of had to take that leap. But trust has got to be an important piece of the puzzle when it comes to conquering fears, right?
Yes. So in order to get over anything, right, I always talk about steps. Everything is literally like a step-by-step process. So you have to trust the person that you're believing in, or the person that's asking you to do something that you're totally afraid of. So by you trusting Lisa, Lisa wouldn't steer you wrong. That was like the little step that you needed to move forward in the right direction of, or move forward with conquering the fear of dogs. So it didn't start with the dog, but it started with Lisa in this instance.
Absolutely. And in addition to trust, you have to have support. And for me, support was somebody saying, I'm willing to invest the time in you to help you overcome this fear. That's not something everyone's willing to do, but having support can be crucial in that process, right, Dr. Z?
Yes. So again, we're talking about dogs. Lisa is the catalyst right here for helping you get over your fear. So you see how she handles the dogs. You actually see how she interacts with her dogs, and that's probably what let you use her as the catalyst for you. Like, okay, I see how you handle your dogs. You see how she loves her dogs. You see how her dogs pay attention to her, how her dogs listen to her. So you're more inclined to actually trust Lisa because she's demonstrated to you that she actually has a handle on these dogs. So it's not like you're just like going in there all willy-nilly. You know how like they say throw somebody in the pool and let them learn how to swim. That's not what you did with Lisa. Lisa shows that she actually has control of the dogs. So that does open up the trust for you as well.
Absolutely. And Lisa, can you talk a little bit about, I know we're taking this in stages, but tell everyone kind of how we started and, what we were kind of hoping to accomplish on our first mission.
Well, I'd never done this before. And to be honest, my dog is a search and rescue dog. So he's trained. He's not a therapy dog, actually. I knew this would work with Shayla because he isn't a therapy dog, but therapy dogs are usually very laid back and enjoy being pet. Thunder just wants to play ball all the time, but that's it. He's just so like focused on the ball and he listens to me. And I'm like, you know what, this will work with Shayla because he doesn't care. He's not going to jump up on her and want to lick her and everything. He'll just be like, okay, whatever, you can walk me, whatever you want to do, it's fine. And just kind of more of a chill and relaxed aspect of things. And so then I was like, when she first talked to me about this, I'm like, okay, like, should we have her like try to like do tricks or what should we have to do? And she's like, no, I just need to walk. And I'm like, okay, like we're at that point where you just got to walk the dog. And so I came up and I knew that he would just walk along, be like, yeah, whatever. And then away they went. And it was a learning experience for me because honestly, I never knew someone who was that afraid of dogs per se. So he did a good job because, like I said, he just listens and likes to play ball. But it was a good learning experience, truthfully, for me. And I just, here you go, Shayla, take it. And she just, you did a good job of hiding the fear, I guess. I didn't see fear in you with it.
Well, I think what helped was you telling me that Thunder didn't care about me. Right. And so I kept reminding myself, and as I said in the video that we shared on social media leading up today, Thunder does not care about me felt like a mantra and a phrase of comfort because I continued to say it as we walked so that I could put myself in a place of comfort to not feel and allow the fear to be the dominant feeling. Yes, I still had anxiety, but I kept reminding myself, okay, Lisa would put me in a position where I wouldn't be safe. She's telling me that the dog doesn't care about me, and I'm okay if the dog doesn't care about me. I don't want Thunder to care about me. And so while we're on Thunder, tell everybody a little bit about Thunder, your work in search and rescue.
Sure.
And tell us kind of about your path and your journey in that way.
Well, it's kind of interesting, especially with the news today about that apartment complex in Florida that collapsed. I've actually gotten a lot of people texting me like, oh, there's probably a bunch of search and rescue people out there doing that. Thunder's a trained, certified trailing dog. And so there's basically 3 different disciplines with search and rescue: cadaver dogs or human remains detection. That's not what we do, but they find like buried bodies, or in Minnesota, unfortunately, a lot of people drowned in all these lakes and rivers around here. And so they help to recover the body. So it's search, rescue, and recover. And then there's like a disaster search and rescue, which a dog is trained to smell for any human that is alive. And that's the type of dogs that they're going to be using probably down there. And then eventually the cadaver dogs. I got into search and rescue because I wanted to train a dog for that. Like I'd go storm chasing because I'm a meteorologist. And then I was like, well, if I'm on the scene of a disaster, hurricane, stuff like that, it would be useful to work with dogs, my favorite thing. And then it also has to do with disasters. But around here in Minnesota and Wisconsin, where North Star Search and Rescue, which is what the team that I'm on, a lot more people go missing, like children go missing in the woods, or also elderly with dementia go missing from their home. And so Thunder here is trained to find that specific scent and be able to go find that person. And that's why he's so ball driven, because he's a working dog from a working dog bloodline. And so he is trained basically to find people, and he gets his reward, which is the ball.
And when it comes to the training for this, you put in long hours and hours and months and weeks of preparing to prepared to do the kind of work that you do, right?
I've had him for I've probably had him like 2.5 years, and you start training them ever since they were a puppy. Every Sunday morning, 9 to noon, or until I have to go to work, our search and rescue team trains. We usually train midweek, and then a lot of people end up going to different seminars and things really across the country to train. So yeah, it's basically all I do is work at WCCO as a meteorologist, and then training or going out on calls with Thunder.
That's awesome. And for those that are watching, what kind of dog is Thunder? How old is he?
Come here. Mr. Crazy. Mwah. Look at this. He's like, just give me my ball, crazy mom. He's 2 years old. He's a German Shepherd. He's black and tan. He's got tan legs, and then he's black, and he's a handful. Let's just say that. He's a handful, but I love him to death. And I mean, these dogs are so smart. It blows my mind how intelligent some of these dogs are, which makes them good working dogs.
Awesome. And we'll drop a link in about 5 minutes. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask Lisa, we'll be able to pop you up. If you would like to turn on your camera, or we can bring you up. If you'd like to do without your camera but just talk, we can do that too. Or you can leave a comment as well in the comments there, and we can read those and share those with everyone as well. Dr. Zakia, I'm sure you deal with people and through therapy that have fears. Maybe they're not afraid of dogs. Maybe they're afraid of something else. What do you tell them as far as some actionable tools, actionable steps that they can take to start sort of breaking down those walls and not allowing those fears to control their life?
Yeah. So actually, part of the process is identifying that there actually is a fear. Some people mask their fears as like anger, or as I'll just say anger and let's just say being moody and irritable. But really, they're actually scared of something. You're either scared to lose something, whether it's scared of losing control, whether it's scared of being hurt, whether it's scared of, I'll just use your example, scared of dogs. It's like, it could be anything. The first step is understanding what you are afraid of. So identifying and understanding what you are afraid of. And then the next thing is, are you willing to do what it takes to conquer whatever your fear is? Without those first two things, because one, you don't know what you're dealing with. And then the second one, if you're not willing to do what it takes to get over it, you never will, because it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So if you're not willing to, you might not know what the steps are yet, but are you willing to do what it takes? That opens the door to saying, okay, yes, I am willing. Okay, now let's get to work.
Absolutely. And you just have to find enough courage to just start the process. I know, as Lisa and I were talking about earlier, with me, it was just start with walking the dog. And the thing that I'm most afraid of, or the thing that we've kind of said, okay, this is going to have to be the next part of the process, is actually sitting on the floor and having a dog running towards me. That makes me tense up when I think about it, because I feel like when you're sitting on the floor, you're more vulnerable. It's harder to get up. I feel like my exit is not as clear. And I just feel anxiety when I think about that. But I feel like if I can put myself in a position to face that fear, that I really could make some progress. So we're figuring out how to tackle that. But like you said, conquering fear is a process. You have to take it step by step, and you have to celebrate where you are. I mean, when I look at just walking the dog now, if you maybe asked me, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago when I was a kid, I would probably be afraid to do what we did on a walk. And so just to even be able to be still, be present in the moment, not to run from dogs because they think that you're playing, and try to not allow the fear to control me. For me, it feels like progress. It may not be someone else's progress, but I can only, look at myself and say, hey, where I am now is better than where I was. Would you agree that people should kind of look at where they are and appreciate where they are? Even the simplicity of making a choice that I'm going to try to tackle this is progress in some cases, right, Dr. Z?
Yes, indeed. That's what I was about to say, because everybody starts, it's individual based, right? So everybody starts where they are. So your setting point, your starting point is not going to be the same as mine. Like my dad is like terrified of dogs. He said, I don't even think he's ever been bit, but he is totally terrified of dogs. He won't even go near them. Whereas even with you were willing to have a conversation with Lisa and say, you know what, I think I want to, work on this process with you. So you see how like my father's is, no, I'm not going anywhere near a dog. I don't even think he wants to see a picture of a dog. Like, oh, you have a dog? I would never come to your house. You know what I mean? But like Shayla, you were like willing to like you're here and you're just like, okay, I'm going to start here. Even just starting with the walking of the dog, that is like the cutest thing ever. But you did something before that. Again, you agreed to even be in the same area as the dog. Sometimes you have to get people even to the point where they can get into the same space with the dog, with like either deep breathing or visualizations and other techniques. So again, you were a little bit further on than even some other people that I have seen, honestly.
And it's taken me probably over 30 years to get to the moment that we were in. I've had sort of sporadic moments throughout life as an adult where I have, like, maybe I've held the leash for a dog, but I didn't walk the dog, and the dogs were just standing there. So I felt more like a fixture. And not like an active participant in anything. And then I've also had moments where, like, I remember at one job, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, they brought puppies to work. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to try to make myself hold one. And I held one. I didn't move. I held it for a second. And then I waited for somebody to take it out of my arms. And we had a similar moment here since I've moved here at Hounds and Hops. We were doing a story there. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try to hold this dog. And, the dog was really squirmy. And my natural instinct, if I wasn't there, you just want to go whoosh, like let the dog go. But you can't do that. And it's like, okay, I'm going to try to gently let this down. But yes, I am scared. Yes. So Lisa, we've been talking about, what is the next step that we take in this process? And so I know some of the things that we've kind of toyed with or talked about as far as trying to get comfortable with actually sitting on the ground and navigating dogs, maybe going to a shelter or something and trying to play with dogs, or, trying to sit on the ground and throw the ball back and forth with Thunder. So I know we've been working on some ideas for that, right?
I think it's a good question to ask Dr. Z, actually. So if it sounds like Shayla kind of mentally has herself ready to conquer this, or at least try to get as far as she can. She walked the dog. Would it be best to, now she walks the dog and I walk away? And so she's alone. If I think he'd be fine, or we could even do it in my apartment or something. So in a safe situation, so she's alone with the dog, and now she's not just a fixture. Or do we go ahead and put her in a more vulnerable spot and have dogs run up to her? What do you think would be a good next step?
Okay, so Shayla, when you were walking the dogs, because you got as far as walking the dog,
yes.
How did you feel? How was your heart? How was your head? How did your belly feel?
I felt like I felt anxious.
Okay.
But I felt like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. Okay. Granted, as you heard Lisa say at some points, I don't know if Shayla's walking Thunder or Thunder is walking Shayla, but we were both surviving in the moment. And I was still breathing. I didn't stop breathing. Okay. I didn't run. Right. So I felt like I could stay in that moment. I felt comfortable being in it because Lisa was there.
Yep.
And then I was able to stay in that moment because I knew, okay, Lisa knows what she's doing. She's a search and rescue canine handler. She wouldn't put me in a situation that was unsafe. I'm scared of dogs, and this is a big dog. If Lisa wasn't here, I probably would be scared if this dog just like approached me. But because I know her and know who the dog is with, then I was able to probably stay in that moment, in that space, longer than I might have been able to stay if that were a moment I was having on my own.
Yes. So what I think a logical next step would be, because Lisa, I think you would need to stay with her, but Shayla, how do you feel about throwing the dog? Don't throw the dog.
Don't throw the dog.
He's heavy.
How do you feel about throwing the ball and having the dog bring it back to you?
We can try it. You mean like, am I standing when he's sending it back to me,
yes,
or am I sitting?
You're going to stand.
Okay, standing, I think I can do it. I will feel anxiety with the dog like running towards me, but the challenge for myself is to stay planted in that moment.
Yes.
And then reminding myself that Lisa wouldn't put me in harm's way and I'm going to be okay. And so I have to continue to remind myself of those things.
Yeah. So like the next step, it would be, I'm thinking is to like have her like throw the ball, but Lisa let the dog get it and then walk the dog back to Shayla and let the dog drop it in front of her and see how comfortable she feels with that one. So you're still
we can do that.
You're still in control, but she's also gaining more control by at least just handling the ball. So you're still maintaining control of the dog without just letting Shayla
just let it go. That sounds good.
Thunder says we'll do it.
Okay, that'll be our next lesson. So we got a few questions in so far. It looks like Liz Ray is saying, besides GSD, which other breeds are or make good trackers or rescue dogs? Lisa?
Sidebar search and rescue question. Well, on our search and rescue team, we have Belgian Malinois dogs. They're very hard workers and very smart dogs. And then we also have Labradoodles. And people don't realize that the poodle is actually also one of the smartest dog breeds. And so some people have golden doodles and Labradoodles, but they're very smart and they're not pointy-eared dogs. So those dogs, we have a few of them on our search and rescue team. And then obviously we have one bloodhound. Hounds are kind of the historically known good track and trailing dogs. And they're the way the bloodhound's face is with like the wrinkles and everything in the big ears. They're just genetically made to kind of take the scent and engulf the scent of the human they're tracking. So as long as they're of a working dog bloodline, that's going to make it easiest. It's not a must, but you're going to take a lot more time training a dog if you don't have a working dog.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. Another question I have right now is from Heather Fitzsimmons. She's asking, what made you finally decide to take on your fear of dogs? Well, for me, I feel like I'm at a place in life where I'm trying to live my life as authentically as possible. And part of being able to show up in the world as authentically as possible, I feel like I need to try to conquer some of the things that I'm afraid of, because fear can affect how you show up in the world. And it can also affect, I feel, the things that you go to, the way that you engage or interact in space. And it really can control how you navigate life, how you show up in the world. And it's more of a personal decision saying, hey, I don't want my life to be controlled by my fears, and I want to be in a position where I can live a more full life. And I know this is a place too. People love their dogs. There are a lot of things that people go to here that involve dogs. And I don't want to feel like I'm limiting what I can do or where I can go or where I can be because of fear. And I don't want to be in a position where I feel like I'm missing out on things or choosing where to go and what to do and what to participate in around a fear of dogs. And so it's more of a personal decision saying, hey, I don't want to allow fear to control my life and how I show up in the world. And, some people have different experiences with dogs, and some people maybe, they actually were bitten by a dog. I never was bitten by a dog. Growing up, I literally only had fish as a pet. But my dad, before, like when my parents were younger and either before they were married or shortly thereafter, at some point he had a German Shepard. And actually he's had two in his life. He had one, I think that was similar to Lisa's. And then he also had a white German Shepherd. And so he's had dogs and he likes dogs, but I never grew up with dogs. I only had fish. But I had a lot of friends growing up that often, I'd get invited to people's houses as you do for your sleepovers and things when you're a kid. And, I would literally plan out life and what I was going to do and how I was going to navigate this. And, sometimes it's letting people know before you go, hey, I'm scared of dogs. Can you put yours up? Or maybe I have to turn this or that down because I know those people have a dog and I don't want them to have to modify their behavior because of my fear. And so it really affects how you show up in the world. And I'm trying to at least create enough comfort for to be able to go to more things. But then also, I know sometimes we have animals at work, especially during the noon show. And, that's not been the case during the pandemic, but likely as more things open up and we have more guests coming back to the studio, animals sometimes show up at noon. And I just want to at least be comfortable enough to be in that space without fear. Dr. Z, do you often see people that are dealing with fear to the level that, they're modifying their behavior, or maybe they're not going to things, or maybe not showing up as their whole self because they are shrinking in a way? And I felt like I've shrunk in a way throughout life because of this thing that, I haven't conquered yet.
Yep. Yes. So what happens is, like, and when you said you started to avoid or, come up with excuses for not going to certain things that you otherwise would have gone had what you were trying to avoid not have been there. So the big word of today is like avoid. I've been saying this word and hearing this word like all day, even before we had a conversation today. And avoidance is what tends to happen when you're afraid to conquer your fear. So, once you start to realize that you're missing out, and Shayla, that might have been what happened. I wonder if and actually you can answer that for me. Did you feel like you were missing out on some fun opportunities, or on some friendly gatherings that you otherwise would have gone to had you not been avoiding dogs?
Well, for example, when I first moved here, I was invited to something with some coworkers, and one of the coworkers had a dog, and they were like, "Hey, are you okay with them?" And it's already awkward sometimes when you're meeting new people, and you don't want to, be putting restrictions on things because you want to get to know people. But then I said, I am afraid of dogs, and they had no problem putting the dog up, and I had a great time. But I've also felt like, man, this sucks that someone else has to modify something about them because I have this fear that I just haven't been able to work through. And so, I think in that way, I've had other experiences like that, just throughout life where I'm modifying my behavior or my involvement or what I'm doing or not doing because I know animals are going to be there, or I don't want other people to feel, uncomfortable or something because they have to modify something about them because I have this fear that I'm trying to tackle.
I think that's a good question too, Dr. Z. Some people, I think a lot of people, there's a legit reason behind fears. And the reason that we have a fear, it's a natural thing that keeps us safe, right? It probably goes way back in the day when humans just had to have fear of certain things in order to stay alive, right? So at what point is it important to realize that this is a fear. Maybe I don't, what if someone's like, I don't care, I'm not going to be around dogs because they're dangerous? Or at what point is it more important to, this is kind of way too much of a fear and this is something I need to tackle?
Yeah, so here's the thing, because like you said, Lisa, some people do have a reason for the fear, and for them, for anybody. So even if we might not rationalize it, the person rationalizes it themselves. So you do have to take a person at their word for, like, no, I don't feel like I want to do this right now. But like what Shayla did is she started to see, like, you know what, I actually do want to partake in it. It's something that she decided to change, but not everybody is in that same, not everybody's on that same page or on that same wavelength. So if a person is not willing to make a change, whether it's unrealistic to us, it could be unrealistic to us, but if it's a rational fear to them, they will never move forward anyway. So they have to come to terms with whether they want to change it or not, and it really is individual based. But Shayla got past that one. You never got bit by a dog? Did a dog ever bark at you?
Yeah.
It jumped on you. Okay. A little bit. But
Yeah.
some people may have bitten, or some people may have seen somebody get mauled, and they have to go on their own time. But it has to be rational or irrational to them, not to us, the outside world.
Absolutely, and it's important to know that fear manifests itself in different ways, like you said, for different people. And for myself, for example, while I had never been bitten as a kid, when I was bitten, it was so embarrassing. I was at a news story and we were covering flooding. There's a whole row of journalists, and we were all standing in this neighborhood. And there was one house that was closest to all of us. There was water all in this yard, but it was like this magical little path where there was no water going from where we were to the garage. And there was a guy in the garage. I did not see the dog. And so I'm like, oh, I'm just going to walk over here and ask this guy if he'll do an interview. And so I'm walking over there. And so at this point, I'm separated from everyone else. And it's just me in the middle, him in his garage, and this row of journalists. And so I'm walking, and then all of a sudden this dog comes bolting out that I did not see. And then he starts running circles around me. And so I'm freaking out, and I'm like, like I'm screaming. And then the dog nipped me on my knee. And, for me, that I was done. Like, I'm like, he bit me. And so the guy ended up doing an interview with me because, his dog nipped my knee. But I was mortified because, once he came to get the dog, and then you look back over here and you see all these people just like staring at you. Oh my God, it was so embarrassing. Yes. But I know I just had one other person ask me here. Let's see. Liz Gray is saying, are we expected to put aside our fears so not to put someone out per se? I mean, fear is a real emotion, crippling at times, and I don't think we should feel guilty about it, in my humble opinion. What do you say,
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's based on each individual person. So the thing is, if you feel like, and when I say you, I mean you, the person, whatever it is that you are fearful of, if you feel like it is rational, right? Or if you get to a point where it's just like, you know what, I want to conquer it. I want to establish a basis for trying to move past it. You're entitled to change your mind. You're entitled to change your feelings. But even if you say, like, this is who I am, this is how I'm staying, you're entitled to that as well. So that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like, it depends on what you decide you want to do for you. No one can tell you whether it's rational or irrational, because it's you. It's on you to decide that for yourself. No one can determine that for you. That comes from you.
Thanks so much, Dr. Z. And of course, just because something works for one person, and you may have the same fear, but it doesn't, compute with you, don't feel like you have to push yourself to be where someone else is. It's okay to be where you are, and that's okay. You don't have to keep up with others or push yourself to be where someone else is, right, Dr. Z?
Yes, you do not. You do not. Now, here's the thing. Say you observe somebody else overcoming their fear. or conquering their fear, which is what we're talking about, that may be what, when you see that, you may say, well, you know what? Maybe I should try. That is you making the decision to make a change for you. That's the only way you're going to change anyway. So you never know what might change your mind. You seeing Shayla overcoming her fear or conquering her fear, working towards conquering her fear of dogs, that may trigger you to say, you know what? I'm going to try it too. By no means, you might not be where Shayla is, right? We talked about that. You may have a different level. You may be a little ahead of Shayla, or you may be a little bit behind Shayla. Like, nope, I can't even go in the same room with the dog. We wouldn't even start you there. We would start you looking at a picture of a dog. You know, we wouldn't even put you with a live dog. So everybody is it's an individual thing. Everybody's plan will be completely different. But you seeing somebody conquer their fears may make you want to conquer yours too.
Yeah, and everybody's got to do it in their own time. I mean, it's taken me like to my 30s now to want to say, hey, I don't want to be controlled by this. It may take somebody else to their 50s, or some people maybe 60s or 70s and never get over that fear. But that's okay. Like, everybody does everything in their own time, and it's okay to be where you are, and where you are is okay. Like, I think for myself, a lot of times just in life, I found myself, wondering like, man, should I have, I wonder if I should be further along here. I wonder if I should be further along there. But it's because I compared myself to where someone else may be in their journey. And maybe they have a different path to where they are than the path that I'm on. And that's okay. But maybe I have different lessons to learn than the lessons that they have to learn. And that's okay too. But at the end of the day, it's like, are we working towards living the life that we want to live? And are we showing up in the world in the way that we feel is most authentic to us? And how do we to get to a place that whatever that is for us individually, we can show up as that person as often as possible.
Right. You talked about comparison. What's the saying? Comparison is a thief of joy.
Yes.
There are a lot of people. I think it's a habit to compare other people's stories and situations and lives to our own. But we do have to get out of the habit of doing that. If a person doing something like you conquering your fear inspires another person to want to conquer something else, it doesn't. We already keep talking about it. It doesn't have to be the fear of dogs. It can be anything. A fear of social situations, or a fear of flying, or a fear of running 10 miles. It can be anything. You can be inspired by anybody's story. Just seeing Shayla go through this process, it's like, you know what? I'm going to try that one thing that I said that I was thinking about trying or thinking about getting over. If that's what you get from other people conquering their fears, that is always our hope. Just do what works for you. Hopefully you move forward in something, but hopefully it inspires you at the same time.
And Lisa, would you like to add to any of this?
I have another question, actually.
Yeah,
I'm over here learning so much for Dr. Z. So on a personal level, I just realized, so I'm 33, and when I was younger, I was a wild child. Like, I'd put on the rollerblades and I'd go flying down the hill, no care for what was going to happen to me. I love flying. I love being up in the air. I love turbulence. And then just within the last few years, something clicked, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting jostled around in this plane a little bit more. Like, this is kind of scaring me. It's almost, did I just mature and go from my teens and my 20s where I'm like, I don't care, to now I'm in my 30s and I'm like, okay, I have stuff to live for. I've accomplished things. Is there some way, when you get older, maybe you mature, or do you just get more scared of things when you get older?
Sometimes it actually depends, because I feel like as we get older, we start to want to have more sense of control of things. So we're less fearless but want to have more control. So I don't know. And I'm going to be honest. I missed the first part of what you were saying. So I'm guessing at what you were asking me. So I'm like kind of generalizing because I completely missed it. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. It was basically as I got older, I had a fear of more things in my 30s versus my teens and my 20s, where I was just so carefree and didn't really care about much. But I think that makes a lot more sense. I think, especially as a woman, as I matured, you're right. I feel like the source of anxiety in a lot of people in general, of course, is not having that control. And so maybe you're right. Maybe not having control could lead to a fear of just generalized things in life, whereas I just didn't care when I was a lot younger.
Fearless when we're young. And then you start to think about, oh, no, wait, I actually have things to live for. I actually do need to pay attention to things. I do need to. So it is. We tend to want to have more control over things as we get older.
Liz Ray said, this is fantastic and so helpful. Thank you. I'm glad that some of what we're talking about is resonating. And Lorraine, I wanted to get your message also. Lorraine said in the video with Shayla Walking Thunder, she was laughing a lot. So Dr. Z and Shayla, was that a nervous laugh or really I'm a having fun laugh? For me, it was honestly like, oh my goodness, I'm in this moment doing this thing that I'm scared of. And I'm staying in the moment, and I just am happy to be in the space. So it was probably a mix of nervous laughter and, hey, I'm actually doing this.
Yeah.
And I made it. Thanks so much for that question.
Yeah.
And I want to go ahead and add one more time, though. If you would like to pop up, we can pop up your video, your camera, if you'd like to, and ask a question. If you've got a question about search and rescue, a question about conquering your fears, if you have a question about, my decision to conquer my fears at this time, my fear of dogs specifically, feel free to join the conversation. We just dropped the link. I'm going to drop it right there. You should be able to see that on your screen. If you are able to type that in, you can make it to our backstage area, and I'll be able to bring you up on the screen, and you can talk to Lisa, Dr. Z, and myself if you have any questions you would like to ask us.
Or Thunder. Thunder will answer some questions.
Thunder will answer. Yes, as long as there is a ball involved.
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
But yeah, so if you're just joining us today, we're talking about conquering fears. And I decided that I wanted to try to tackle this fear of dogs. Actually, I was talking to Lisa and shared that I had a fear of dogs one day before the noon show. And she said, how in the world are you scared of dogs? I've been around dogs and animals my whole life. So what better pairing than to have the person terrified of animals paired with the person who loves animals, but also someone skilled, highly skilled with search and rescue training too. For me, she provided that level of comfort that I needed to be able to tackle my fear. But also, for her, she's skilled and trained in this area. So she had the perfect dog to tackle this challenge with. So I thought that was really awesome that we were able to go out once so far. We're going to be going out again. Dr. Z has given us our instructions for how we should approach our next lesson. So Lisa, we will take those notes and we will apply them and see how it goes. We have got another comment here. This is from Callie. I also have a fear of dogs, stems from childhood. Saying this makes me want to conquer it so my children can have pets one day. Thanks for sharing, Shayla. Great advice, Dr. Z. That's so awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. And that's a big reason why I wanted to do this video and do this Let's Chat series, because we don't get to really have these kinds of conversations on television, but we're human. We're regular, normal people too, with, the same questions, concerns, and worries that everybody else has. And so I wanted to create this space so that we could engage and I could engage with viewers in a more conversational way. It's a way where you can kind of get to know me, and today we're getting to know Lisa as well. But also Dr. Z is here with us to offer that perspective, and actually more information on actionable steps that you can take to tackle some of the things you might be navigating in your life. I don't have all the answers to any of this stuff, but I'm working with great folks like Lisa, Dr. Z, and others to try to move people forward. We're all in a different place in whatever we're navigating in life. And the goal is to just leave people after these chats with some actionable steps that you can say, hey, maybe I can get out there and try this again, or maybe I'm okay where I am, or maybe I'm worrying myself too much. Maybe I should just relax and be present where I am. However you leave the conversation, the hope is that you feel encouraged, supported, and know that you're going to be okay. And the goal of this conversation is to open myself up, because I'm like a lot of the folks that watch. I live a regular life, go to the same stores you go to, probably navigate some of the same challenges that you do. And I just wanted to create a space where we could connect and talk and chat and get to know each other in a meaningful way. So I'm so thankful that both Dr. Z and Lisa have been able to join me today. We've got about 10 minutes left, and I will start with you, Lisa. Is there anything that you would like to add or leave for folks as we prepare to wrap up shortly?
One thing that I get asked a lot as a meteorologist, fear of the weather. I think that's a big thing. My sister, actually, I'm a meteorologist. I storm chase for part of my job, actually. And yet here's my sister who's afraid of the weather. Anytime there's any potential for severe weather, I get a text. She's up middle of the night asking about severe weather, which is right. But also the more you inform yourself about severe weather and the ways to get weather warnings, the more comfortable you'll feel with that fear. So if you have like a child who's afraid of tornadoes or something along those lines, just sit them down and try and inform them about the science if they're interested in that. And then knowledge is going to help a little bit more with that comfort. And then saying, yes, I understand you're scared of tornadoes and you should be afraid of lightning because it could kill you, really. But this is what you do. When thunder roars, go indoors. When you see lightning, you're close enough to get struck by lightning. Go inside and stay inside for at least 30 minutes after the last time you hear thunder. That's the safe time to go back out. Make sure you have a NOAA weather radio or your cell phone. Make sure that you have that nearby for the tornado warning alarms. And having those things will help you, make you feel more comfortable. Make sure you have a plan in place. You know where you're going to go if there's a tornado warning, your safe place. Having all of these things set up and the whole family knowing of these things, then you're not just at a loss as to I have no control and I'm vulnerable to tornadoes or severe weather. Having that conversation and then being prepared, I think brings comfort to a lot of people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. Very important information. And Dr. Z, would you like to leave some remarks for folks to take away from this conversation on conquering fears?
Yes. So I'm actually just going to use Lisa's example for what I'm using to close out on, because a lot of people have a fear of losing control. And it can be in any area or any arena in life. So following steps, following the steps. One, acknowledging that you are, afraid of losing control. Two, understanding or identifying that, yes, I am willing to do what it takes to get over this aspect of my life. Three, now you're identifying what you're willing to do as, actionable steps. If you're doing it yourself, identify 10 things that you might feel comfortable doing or that you see yourself doing as a demonstration that you no longer have a fear of losing control. So Lisa, you gave an example of, and I think you were like in a plane or something, just like, you don't have control of the plane, but what can you control at that time? You can identify those 10 things that you can actually control at that time. You can't control the plane unless you're flying it. And 9 times out of 10, you're not flying the plane. So that's off the board. But what are like 10 actionable items that you know you can control or that you're willing to do to relinquish control at that time to kind of let that fear go, right? And then you start going through those processes, whatever your processes are. Go through them a couple of times, identify what works, identify what does not work, keep the things that work for you, discard the things that do not work for you. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to slowly progress to where you get to the point of, you know what? I actually can relinquish control. I can go with the flow. And I know I can only control what I can control, which is really you. Once you start to understand that, you can only control you and the actions that you take. 9 times out of 10, you will work towards conquering that fear.
And would you also say, while I'm thinking about it, if you're afraid of multiple things, don't feel like you have to overcome them all at once. Pick one actionable thing, and maybe make that your focus for for this few days. I'm going to work on this, or this month I'm going to work on this, and
Yes.
Don't overload yourself. Right?
Yes, please do not try to do 4 or 5 things at one time. Just pick one. And you can do that one thing 5 or 10 minutes a day. I'm all about making it practical to where it's not impeding your life or negatively impacting your life, but it's slowly getting integrated into your life as a habit and as a routine. Do one thing. Just pick one. Pick the one that gives you the path of least resistance. Pick the easiest one. And then go through that. And then once you master that, then try to take on the second thing. And again, it's like the second easiest thing. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to do 18,000 things at one time.
Oh, absolutely. And I wanted to say, I think I've got somebody popping up here. We've got Heather. Hi, Heather. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Yes, this, of course, is Dr. Z. And Lisa, you have a question for him?
I do, actually. And side note, I am Lisa's older sister.
Oh, wonderful.
And Thunder's aunt. But, when Lisa told me about this, I was like, okay, nothing she's going to be watching or doing. I've actually learned quite a bit, and I am really interested in this. I am not afraid of dogs.
Okay.
I have a dog and 2 cats. Just like Lisa, we grew up with dogs. But I was writing down everything that Dr. Z was saying about understand, acknowledge, what can you do, control it. Not like dogs in general, but let's say like I don't fly well. I don't travel well. I like to stay in my house. What can you do to get to that point where it's okay, like you feel okay about it, where you want to do it, just like Shayla wanted to meet Thunder and do all that. Like I applaud you for that, because I don't want to do anything that I'm afraid of. So
yes.
So what I would say is usually, so what's the one part that you are afraid of? Is it leaving the house? Is it actually being away from the home? Is it the packing? Is it like where are you yourself?
So myself is being at home.
Okay.
I like being at home. It's comfortable. It's my place. I know that's my thing. When I leave the house, I have a hard time with that because I can't control everything, like you said. So I have to drive, which is one of my things, because like I feel like I'm more in control if I drive. But I also, it's like if somebody else will drive, like Lisa or whatever the situation may be, I'm like, okay, it's fine. They're just driving. It's not a big deal. But I feel like I need something to like push me to that point of calm down.
Right.
We're just driving to get something to eat or whatever the situation that may be.
So if we're starting, we'll just take the car ride as an example.
Yes.
Mental preparations, right? So 9 times out of 10, people are not coming like out of the blue, just like, okay, Heather, we're going to go do this. Being prepared for, maybe you have a week's advance notice, like, okay, we're going to go on a trip. Okay. You know that you don't like people driving. Okay. So for the first 5 minutes that someone is driving, I am going to try to do blank. It's like, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to, like do deep breathing exercises? Are you willing to meditate? Are you willing to do a crossword puzzle and not pay attention to the road? So identify or what are your self, yourself, not self-care mechanisms. What are your soothing mechanisms that typically help you, that they might have nothing to do with the car, but they can apply when you're in the car? Do you need a squeegee ball? Like one of those squeegee balls. Do you say, I acknowledge and I honor the person that is driving this car? Do you pray for the person that's driving the car? Something. I don't know what your thing is, but relinquishing control can start at the point of one, okay, I know someone else is going to drive this car. Here is what I'm willing to do to relinquish control. Identify 10 things that you're willing to do while they're driving the car.
Okay.
That kind
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
If Lisa's driving, I mean,
Do you trust Lisa driving?
no comment.
Well, it's time to go now, Shayla. I think we're done with this interview. Cut her off.
Oh, I'm laughing because when I'm in the car with my parents, I always know when my dad's nervous, because if he's in the passenger seat and that hand goes up on the car.
The invisible.
If my mom's driving and you see him look over, you know he's nervous. Heather,
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, Heather. And Lisa, Dr. Z, thank you all so much. I'll tell you, I've got topics lined up every week. So next week's topic, we're talking about celebrate where you are. I'm going to be talking to an awesome woman from St. Paul who, when she was younger, she had wanted to be a comedian. She moved out to LA, and the agents and all the folks told her that she was too heavy to conquer that goal. And so she left LA, and over the years, she's lost a lot of weight. And now she's 53, and she's lost a ton of weight, and she's trying to get back into all those things that she loves. And so she's learning to celebrate where she is right now. And we're going to talk about that process next week, because a lot of times we always kind of focus on, oh, I'm not here, or I'm not there, or, oh, I should be here, or, oh, I should be there. And maybe don't take enough time to appreciate, hey, like it took a lot of work to get to the moment I'm in now, and celebrate where we are. And, eventually you can work towards all the other things you want to accomplish. But sometimes it's okay to tell yourself, man, I'm doing a good job. And so we're going to have that conversation next week, because life can get tough. And sometimes, we are always thinking about the next best thing, or, where we were and not where we are. And so we're going to have that conversation next week. So I invite everybody tuning in. Please join us. I'll start making some little advertisement things for that for social, so you can stay on the lookout for those. Lisa, Dr. Z, thank you for joining us. Heather, thank you for popping up as well and for an awesome question. And again, this particular stream, it'll be available as soon as we end the broadcast. You'll be able to watch this back. If you didn't get all your notes in, you can watch it at the same link and get anything you need that way. Thank you guys so much again. I appreciate you, and have an awesome day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.